Welcome to Candid Minds with Dr. T. I'm Dr. Tamir Aldad, addiction psychiatrist and CEO of Mindful Care, the first ever psychiatric urgent care committed to providing affordable and accessible mental health care. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Today we'll be discussing navigating wins and losses and mental health and professional sports, a topic I thought was really interesting as we're seeing changes in the way professional sports are understood, with a stronger and more improved emphasis on mental health and the well-being of our professional athletes. Personally, I think a lot of great lessons could be taught through sports and playing sports, particularly team sports, in a sense where children can learn perseverance, tenacity, navigating wins and losses, and really understanding where their strengths and weaknesses are so they can invest more time in developing skills. And there's a lot of positive takeaways from playing team sports. But what I thought was interesting is what happens when that gets escalated to the professional level, and are there consequences, particularly negative consequences, if our athletes are pushed too far? My next guest is R.C. Buford. R.C. is the CEO of the San Antonio Spurs. He's been with them for a long time, has seen how professional sports have evolved, and has seen where the emphasis has changed as someone who's leading such a large organization. And we talk a little bit about what it means to incorporate mental health into the well-being of his athletes. And where is the priority now? Where is the focus now? And what needs to change? So I think that those are topics that will resonate with a lot of people, because perhaps not everyone plays professional sports, but understanding when you're in a high-pressure environment, the emphasis on mental health could make or break someone. And that's the goal, is to really understand where we're going as a society through the lens of individuals that are managing such large organizations. So I'm excited to share this with you. I'm happy he's here today, and I'm certain we'll have a great conversation. All right. I'd like to welcome R.C. Buford to the show today. Thank you for joining us. R.C. is the CEO of the San Antonio Spurs and a good friend. R.C., thank you for being here. Share with us a little bit about your background.
Well, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. I have grown up in basketball. I played as a kid, played in college. I started coaching after college and have moved from coaching through both in college and the NBA, as well as then 25 years in the front office of our sports club. And in 2019, September 2019, I moved into the CEO role, really trying to organizationally align across all of our entities, basketball, business, our minor league franchises, as well as our sports and entertainment division.
Certainly quite the career. And it's said that culture comes from the top, right? Particularly and morale comes from the CEO. How do you manage and balance fostering resilience and motivation among your staff, your players, your coaches, balancing that with perhaps setbacks and making sure that people stay resilient navigating that?
I think that there's programmings that you can offer and engage in to build resilience, to support your staff, to support your team. But I think selection and assessment is a big part of that team building, and values alignment, I think, creates an environment that people are the more aligned they are from a value standpoint, the more eager they're going to be to come every day, to keep pounding the rock, to try to get better every day, to face adversity, not as individuals, but together. And I think that's a big part of both from a team selection standpoint as well as an organizational selection is values alignment.
Interesting. So talking about selection, have you found specific attributes that yield greater resilience to when navigating setbacks?
Well, I think from a value standpoint, we focus on high character people that want to be part of something bigger than themselves, and that will come to every day to. Uh, there's a story of a stonecutter who pounds a rock, and when the rock finally breaks after the hundreds of blows, he knows it wasn't that blow that did it, but all the work that went before it.
Mm.
So, from a selection standpoint, high character selfless pound the rock is really what we're looking for, which then we believe brings people in with a frame of mind of being a part of a team, of getting better every day and facing adversity together and not and being resilient and gain resilience from each other as opposed to scattering to the corners and being isolated in difficult times.
Yeah, no, and that pounding the rock is interesting because we talked a little about earlier in the show, we talked about reframing and the importance of reframing, particularly in situations where you can interpret something differently and use that energy after you reframe to push forward, right? And use that momentum and channeling it towards something positive. So that it is really important to be able to, even if you have a loss, look at it differently, reassess, learn from it, come back, try again, try harder. And
I
that
think
does take a,
the
yeah.
other thing that builds resilience is bringing people together in
Mm,
a way that they learn from each other's experiences and not be focused on basketball. So we've had a very international club for the NBA.
hmm.
Our 2014 championship, we had 11 of our 14 guys born outside the United States. And the ability for us to share experiences together over breaking bread, where we weren't just focused on the wins or the losses, but
Mm.
we learned together in ways that um, could never have been duplicated if all we were focused on was basketball.
Interesting. Yeah, it kind of takes the obsession away from winning, right? A lot of times you see an obsession with winning and you lose the bigger picture. Have you seen a shift overall in professional sports across even other teams that people are more mindful of mental health and not just thinking about it about wins and losses, but looking at the bigger picture, the health of the team, breaking bread with the team, like you're saying? Is that something that is a shift across the board?
The focus on mental health, especially during the pandemic, I think um, became a heightened uh, exercise and awareness. The NBA went into a bubble environment the first summer of the pandemic, and many of the athletes that went there to begin July 1 ended in October. They were in isolation from family and friends for a period of months. And I think the league, the Players Association, all aligned more purposefully in focusing on mental health. I think the other thing that we have found is as our league has gotten younger, I believe that the preparation, the environment that many of our entry level players come from is less stable, less organized, less structured than they've had in the past. And so from that, we're not just focused on performance psychology, but also mental health differently than we were when you had a group of players who had been through multiple years of college, who came from international basketball and were 24, 25 years old, and had really established a lot of the personal health and wellness habits that a younger generation of athletes haven't had the benefit of 4 years of college.
Yeah, they come with different skills, right? More time, more life experience, more skills. I wonder if talking about those skills that they have, um, criticism has changed over the years, and we see it in a lot of arenas, but particularly in professional sports. How do you feel right now teams are prepared to navigate the criticism. And it's also a lot more in your face with social media.
Yeah.
There's easier access to credit. It isn't just reading the sports section in the back of a newspaper. You could be criticized every day, all day. Things can blow up right away. You could be canceled hypothetically, right? The public and fans have access to the teams in a way they never have before. How do you feel that the criticism is impacting teams, and how prepared are teams to even handle that, and players in general, in terms of having the skills to not let that set them back?
Well, you're exactly right. Social media has changed the um, the way we can engage with our fans, both positively and negatively, as individual players, as collective teams, and as leagues. And so the exposure to criticism the is very similar to what young kids go through, from an identity
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, an identity crisis, that you see all the publicity around social media, the impact in both positive and negatively on self-esteem, on social status, and the sports is a leading target of that. I think you would find a much different awareness from, again, the league and the Players Association level than ever before. There is cursory training done, and then much of it is a responsibility of the teams and you probably have a different engagement across 30 teams than you, in a way that you wouldn't. It's not consistent, I would guess, um, in meeting the needs of across industry.
But yeah, I guess what I'm hearing though is that the trend is in the right direction, with organizations at least being more committed to change and awareness. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
So knowing that, where do you see it heading?
Well, I think becoming more available, having the difficult conversations, um, finding the right resources to. It's clear that we as coaches and professional sports executives don't have the skill set to nurture athletes and our organizational staff. We currently have programming that we're engaging with the University of Texas at Dallas Center for Brain Health, with some ongoing programming for our organizational staff. Having resources available, crisis resources available, I think is always important. But then also just a consistency of conversations, so it destigmatizes
Hmm.
conversations around mental health.
Are they ever at odds? Meaning, thinking about what's in the best interest of the mental health of a team member and kind of all that awareness you're talking about. But then you put that CEO hat on and you're thinking what's in the best interest of the organization. Do you ever see them at odds? And if they are, how does one navigate that?
I don't know that it's ever at odds. I think that we as an organization have always put the player health above all else in performance.
Mm-hmm.
And we're fortunate from that to have had extended careers from some of our iconic players. Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker,
Sure.
David Robinson played for the organization till they were 40 plus years old in circumstances. And I think that was an intentional reflection on managing career workloads, both physically and emotionally. Now, I think that awareness has changed not only on physical workloads, which we were more focused on at one point in time, but the emotional workload that we all are carrying differently for whatever reasons, For
Yeah.
some, it's personal home life. For others, it's meeting the expectations of the public in the sporting side. For others, it's trauma-informed care uh, from childhood. So I think it's not something that you can identify individually or as a group. I think it's very individual.
No, that makes total sense. And if you look at legends, like you're saying, the environment has to be right. And if the right environment is there, individuals could thrive and shine and excel. So really creating that ecosystem across, like you mentioned, mental health, physical health. It's really all these factors together have to um, be properly calibrated to set one up for success, and then being aware of that really is what brings the organization to the next level. So I couldn't agree more. Any final?
The other area
Yeah.
I think is how we translate that to our community. I
Mm,
mean, we have a great responsibility to Central and South Texas, into Mexico, to create programming for youth at an early age that creates safe environments for not only youth sports, but also um, team building, personal development and awareness. So I think throughout our community, you'll see us really trying to create senses of belonging, converting what we learn with youth sport athletes and
do you have an example of something like that you guys are
and
working on?
scaling it across our community. So we just moved into a new training environment, and we've been in our past training environment for almost 25 years.
Hmm.
We will repurpose that environment where there are 5 championship banners hanging from our time in that building, and now we're repurposing it for our community impact center, where there will be youth sports in there, but there will also be in the coaching in our coach Popovich's office will now be a coaching training environment that we use that space to help young coaches learn how to create safe environments for the next generation of youth playing in our environments. In our locker room, we're going to create a safe place for difficult conversations to
Mm,
be had amongst teams, amongst organizations, amongst NGOs, whatever it might be. In our conference area, we'll have a mental health provider who provides services to organizations throughout our community, and it's a safe place for people to come in and out of to have uh, support in areas of need.
no, that's really incredible, and certainly much needed, right? The mental health crisis is very real. The demand is extraordinary. Access to care is an issue. Creating an environment where people feel safe and can thrive and have access to these resources. I salute you for that work. That's really, really, it's setting an amazing example. And if everyone can give back in that way and be a beacon of hope and groom the next generation, that's invaluable. So certainly impressive. And I'm sure everyone who will get to use this facility will be grateful because, like I said, there's limited resources. And if someone's willing to champion building a resources with all these services in one building, and a building that's iconic in a sense to many in the community, there's a lot to look forward to there. So really, really great stuff. Well, I appreciate you joining us. I know you're busy, and I thank you for your insight and then the work that you're doing, and especially the perspective you're able to bring. So, thank you very much for your time. Would love to have you back again soon.
Thank you, RC, for an excellent conversation. Certainly appreciate your insight and your input. Now, reflecting a little bit on this, I think we have to be very careful. As a leader in mental health, I fully support incorporating mental health into professional sports, and it certainly has a place and is very important. But if we zoom out for a second, my biggest fear is that we'll create an overcorrection, meaning playing sports should create a level of resilience, right? You're creating an environment where a child, let's say, is learning how to win and how to lose, learning how to deal with endurance and training and stamina from a mental perspective and as a physical one. Now, if we create an environment where any noxious stimuli is eliminated immediately with the hopes of preserving their mental health, what could happen is when they're exposed to such stimuli in the real world, they've developed no skills to deal with them. And if you think of an analogy, it's comparable to the people who are overly cautious with germs and constantly sanitize and use hand sanitizer and clean and disinfect. Research has shown that children who live in overly sanitized environments with limited exposure to germs have weaker immune systems. Now, if you think that that's a coincidence, it's not. Effectively, the body wasn't exposed enough to build mechanisms to protect itself. So I would say at a professional level, I absolutely agree with RC that these are athletes that have trained their whole life. And if they're crying foul, we take it very seriously. I certainly don't think it's an opportunity to teach resilience at the professional level. But what I would say is I would exercise a lot of caution trying to take what we're implementing and encouraging in the professional setting and bringing that to the amateur setting, because there is a place for young adults and young athletes to be tested. And it's important for us to figure out what is considered safe and what is considered taxing and walk that fine line. So the benefits of playing sports and the benefits of being in situations where you have to overcome still exist, because we do run the risk of eliminating those benefits entirely if we overcorrect. So my perspective is we are cautiously optimistic. We continue celebrating mental health in the professional setting because these are athletes that I think know very well how their bodies are responding and where their headspace is at, and we take that very seriously. But we try not to copy that entirely in other settings and continue looking at this through a critical lens. At the end of the day, the positives of playing sports need to be recognized and celebrated. The teamwork, the positivity, the cooperation, the collaboration are all skills that are super important in all settings. And having mental health front and center, no matter where it is, should always be top of mind. I appreciate you joining us. Thank you again, RC, for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you for listening. Please follow us or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Please follow us at Mindful Care and at TikTok Psychiatrist for more, and don't forget to rate and review.